Howdy neighbors, welcome back. So, we have a special guest for you guys today. I had asked a couple of my friends and they were willing to actually share one of their favorite decks with you guys today. So give a warm welcome to Fortune of Loopville TCG. Because obviously they've been always cooking up content like...
to make Labrador sauce.
And
2 rounds. When X2
that one right there. So be sure to give them a like, share, comment, and subscribe, because they're awesome batch of Aussie blokes. Always trying to help the community, one joke at a time. And obviously they're very good players, both of them being players of all of Bushiroad's games. So hopefully you guys support them. Take it away.
Hi everyone, it's Fortune from Loopville TCG, and I'm here to take you guys through Murakumo Shirayuki. This is part of the 25 days of premium. So thank you J.J for having me. Yeah, let's get into it. So we play 4 of each V Shirayuki. Axel, very good. And while they don't usually come up, the defensive skills are nice to have. But the main thing is the Counterblast for making 10k from 6 flowers, and that just lets you push with lots of attacks. It's quite strong. For our other grade 3 we play 2 Yasuye, so we do play the Jump Stride. It's really vital to set up, and the thing that is pushing this deck so much is that it can attack from every circle, and so the more circles you get, the better it is. So getting the Jump Stride in your 2 excels is very useful. The On Stride skill to Counterblast 1 and clone something is nice to have, but often doesn't come up. There are other ways to clone things that don't cost Counterblast, and you'll see we don't really play counter charges, so Counterblast it has to be very, you have to have a very good reason to use it in this deck. You have to justify it. Onto the grade 2s, we play 4 Itohiki Girl, which is our top 5 searcher. So the main things that you want to get off this is the next grade 2 actually, Frightstickle, which is very important for your first stride turn and then not really important on later turns, but it can come up. The other cards you want to get can be Shirayuki for your optimal ride, or Ataka to find your ESCAs. Apart from that, there is a combo with Itohiki Girl involved, which I'll go over later, but yeah, very, very useful card to have, and definitely a 4 of. And speaking of 4s, we go on to the next grade 2, Frightstickle. It works best when it's being cloned, so obviously 4 of is very useful. But mostly, yeah, it's just there for the draw, which you really need, because your first stride is essentially set up, your second stride is essentially kill. Next, we have Drawn Chatter. So this can be your ideal ride target. There's not really an ideal ride, because like I said before, Drawn Chatter, even though it does have that Vanguard skill, it does cost a Counterblast, which is something that you have to justify. So it doesn't come up often, but technically it would be your ideal grade 2 ride. Apart from that, putting normal units back to your deck is something that Murakumo desperately needed. So, especially since we got the Tamba ban. So having Drawn Chatter is very useful, and it means that even if you do end up guarding with your Shirayukis, they're not gone forever. And also, getting the name of something is quite useful. And we'll see that later when I go over some combos. Next we have Shirayuki. So this is your ideal grade 1 ride. The Soul Charge 1 skill doesn't come up often, but it's still nice to have. Apart from that, yeah, get your consistency, and it's adding a Shirayuki to your hand in theory, so if you need to, that can be your discard for your superior stride with Yasuye. Next we have our 4 attackers. So finding Yasuye is very important, but we don't really want to play multiple Yasuyes, or well, more than we have to. So 4 attacker also can be used for striding, so it's not the worst. And it can be found off Itohiki Girl, like I mentioned before, so that's pretty key. Next, we have 3 Honoli. I think Honoli is, unfortunately for this deck, like a necessary evil. where I really wouldn't want to play Honolulu, but I feel like I have to. So the great thing about Honolulu specifically in this deck is that it can be cloned, and so while one Honolulu is not like crazy, having 3 is what matters, and that's what usually will let you get to that second stride turn. So I think if you're playing Honolulu, you have to play at least 3 in this deck. Just because your opponent's under 3 Honolulus, it means that at least the rear guard attacks won't be too many, so it does improve your chances of living. And then our last grade 1 is Elementaria Sanctitude. You have to. It's just, there's so much in this format that its only out is Sanctitude, so yeah. Then obviously we have our starter, and for heal triggers, so I'm playing 3 of the ones that can either give 10k or negative crit. Yeah, living is pretty important. And I do play the 1 countercharge heal, so this is the only way to countercharge in the entire deck, because I don't play Dark Spider. So it doesn't always come up, but when it does, it's nice. It means it can justify like the G-Guard that can boss, which we'll see later. But I personally like the 3-1 split. Next we have our 3 draw PGs, pretty self-explanatory, and seeing pieces is very nice. But it is kind of tricky because this deck does end up playing rainbow triggers because of this, so it's not necessarily as much crit pressure as I would like, but I'm not really certain on how else to change that up. Next, we have 3 Masamura. This is our Yasuie crit, so a lot of the time I don't do the skill, and it's just there for getting damage checked so I can draw 1, which I have found to be pretty useful, but occasionally, you know, you see it in your hand on your Yasuie jump stride turn, so you go for it, you know. And then I do have 1 Bull Andon. So this actually does come up often, because if you do get your Fright School and everything on your first jump stride turn, you do end up drawing a lot of cards, so seeing 1 of is not too far-fetched. And it's just a stride crit, so it's not that bad to have. Next, we play 4 Hidden Scroll. This card has been a staple since it came out, honestly. It enables so many combos and is the cost for it is returning it to the deck. So near costless cloning, which is so useful, and like I was saying before, is just the better way to clone things. So you see your 1 Honolulu and 1 Hidden Scroll, there you have your 3 Honolulus. You see 1 Fright Skull and 1 Hidden Scroll, there you have your draw 2. So super important, and also for some combos, which again I'll go over later. And our last trigger is Drag Vader. Obviously very, very strong. Restanding your Vanguard when it's a stride, you get 3 more drives again. And also being the Vanguard restanding means you're not playing into Honolulu. Yeah, it's very hard to argue why you would want to play a different overtrigger in this deck at least. So Drag Vader it is. And the last card for the main deck is Ladder. So this is a rearguard reliant deck, very rearguard focused, and you know, just coincidentally happens to use a bit of soul. So the fact that this card goes into your soul and also protective rearguards is very important. So it's definitely the regardless piece you have to play in this deck. Before this card came out, I was playing Forbidol, just to get 2 Shirayukis, which it was cool, but thank goodness that we have board protection now, because that was something that this deck desperately needed. Alright, now we'll go on to the G-Zone. So we'll start with what most people expect, which is Yoshimitsu Train. This is our jump stride. I already said we're playing a CA, so this one's very important to have, but also, interestingly enough, I feel like there's an argument to be made that in a vacuum, Murakumo has the best jump stride, because other clients that are rearguard focused get like call 1, but this one is call 2, and the downside is that they go back to deck. But the thing is, in a lot of cases, them going back to deck is fine. Like, that's for Murakumo especially, but I said in a vacuum, and in a vacuum it means that you don't leave rearguards. Like if you're fighting against Shiranui, you don't leave rearguards for them to dominate, and things like that, you know? It's you fight against Link Joker, there's not a unit on that side for them to lock. So in a vacuum, I think this could have an argument to be the best jump stride. But in Murkumo especially, when you're cloning Fright's Call, it gives you so much advantage. Because not only getting 2 draws off getting 2 XL2s, you also get another 2 Fright's Calls. So that's another 2 cards. So at, like, I don't want to say at worst, because at worst you could just not see Fright's Call. But seeing 1 Fright's Call, and that's it, you get 4 draws extra, which is kind of insane. Next we have our main killing stride. So this is Izu Shiotome. We only play 2 because usually if they do live 1, you're either dead on their turn or they hit their OT, so you never really need more than 2. But yeah, being able to clone and put units back into your deck is both very important, but the continuous skill, just being able to attack from every single circle as long as there's another unit with the same name as that unit. So on this one stride, where ideally you'll have 3 Excel circles, what's that, 8 rear guards, plus the Vanguard itself, plus the one that you flip. So that's 10 attacks minimum, plus if you check stands. So there's a lot of attacks, and your opponent loses a lot of power because you're playing Shirayuki. So it's quite strong. Next we have our flip fodder. So Shibaraku Victor is technically a card that you can go into, but it usually doesn't come up, like only if you've been damage denied and Honolid, and it's rare. But this is the target to flip from your G zone, just because of its Shadow Stitch skill from the G zone, where it can come out when your rear guard's attack does not hit a Vanguard. And also, if you have 2 of them, you can call one over the other, and then the one that was retired goes back to your G zone, and now you've got it face up in G zone again. So you can keep attacking until you run out of soul, basically, or until your opponent takes the hit. Our next stride is in here for when you do get damage denied, because it actually does come up quite often, or if they live on the big kill turn with Izu, you can use this one and still be able to push for somewhat threatening. And this is Yasuye Genma, so you get to clone something, and also you get to give... So originally it was like you have to walk around giving your back row extra power, and then it can attack from back row, but now that you have Excel circles, if you have 3 Excel circles and your 2 front row, that's 5. So you give your 5 units 5k in a crit, and that's just your entire front row. Next, we have our Honolly counter. And I say counter, but it's more like this is the only play that you can do when they Honolly you. So this is Homura Raider, which is very, very old stride, but this has been the backbone of Murkumo Premium for so long, and when I go over combos, I'll show you how this combo works. But there's, in theory, you can get like 4 or 5 Vanguard attacks, but at lowest you get 3, which is still good enough considering that you're under Honolly in a rear guard focused deck, which is sort of the problem with this deck, is that Honolly's around and we don't have any Vanguard focused strides besides Homura Raider, but Homura Raider itself is also sort of, it encourages swinging with rear guards first, so it's kind of difficult, but it's the best that we've got. Next, we have our GB8. So if you do manage to get to GB8 and you haven't killed them on Izu, then this is actually quite threatening because it gives you so many extra attacks, especially because 6 Flower Shirayuki can keep calling, so you use a skill, doesn't hit, call another rear guard, and then you also have it move to Vanguard. So you just get a whole bunch of extra attacks, and basically, if your opponent's on 5 damage and you go into this, it's basically asking them to heal at 6 or a T at 6, but you know, that's pretty strong. Then our last stride is Harmonix Messiah. Obviously, you need to include one in pretty much every deck now, so no explanation needed on that. Now for our G guards, we do play 5, so we play our flipped G guard. This is the one I was saying before that does use a counterblast, but it's kind of insane where you counterblast one flip and then all of your guardians you can choose to put back to your deck. So if you have OT in your hand, you G guard with this and then guard with your OT, and then your OT goes back to your deck. And that's the thing as well, it's not a skill that's on the G guard, it's a skill that it gives to your Vanguard. So you G guard with this, and then for a separate attack you can guard with triggers and put them back to deck. So it's kind of insane for that. Then we have 2 of our latest G-Guard, which, oh my goodness, it took so long for Murukamo to get a good G-Guard, but that's a separate topic. Aizen, so lot of shield, potentially, especially if you do have multiple rearguards, which doesn't always happen. If you play, I guess, around your G-Guard and you know what to look out for, this can be very, very big shield. And then last, like I said before, we're a rearguard focused deck, so obviously Dismal's going to make an appearance here. It doesn't come up very often, and usually it is flip fodder for Shira, but it's nice to have when you need it. Sorry about the mic change, but just going over Honorary combos when you're under Honolly, it's okay. There's a few ways that you can go about this, because at the end of the day, when you ride Shirayuki and you get your Excel, and go into Honoraya, you could just have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then obviously on Honoraya. And then, yeah, there's your 2 sets of 3 that you return. But you can play around this in a way where you can get an extra restand. So, yeah, ditch 1 to stride. Then we're going to have 2 boosters of whatever, doesn't matter what they are, as long as they can boost. Then we're going to have a hidden scroll that we don't use the ability of, because it's optional. Then Itohiki Girl here and here. And then our 3 Shirayukis, 1, 2, 3. So, you swing the Vanguard, this is the first swing. And you return 3. To restand. Oh, sorry, obviously you can't blast 2. Then you swing with Itohiki Girl, boosted, counterblast 1, and search your deck for a hidden scroll, as you can clone that. So you call hidden scroll, this one you use the ability of, goes back to the deck, and then you'll clone 2 more Itohiki Girls. And that's the second swing. Then you swing again with your Vanguard. You return 3 Itohiki Girls. 1, 2, 3. And then your Vanguard restands. And then you swing. This is the 4th swing now. But you will use the skill Counterblast 1. Again, cloning Hidden Scroll. So Hidden Scroll has been cloned. And then it goes back to deck. Call out 2 more Itohiki Girls. And then now swing number 5 on which is on your Vanguard, so you don't have to pay the cost for Honolly. And you return 3 Itohiki Girls, and then re-swing again. And then obviously if you check OT, you can swing again. But that's the combo, the, I guess, more committing way. Unfortunately, it will die to if your opponent has a field control G-Guard or something like that, but at that point you're fighting against a Honolly and a field control G-Guard, so it's rough anyway. But yeah, that's the combo. Keep that in mind when you're playing against Honolly. Yeah.
Thanks, Fortune. And would like to thank you guys at Bluefield TCG as well, the rest of the crew who has been helping us with the Bushiroad streams that have been supporting us with the awesome content. Thank you guys so much. And thank you guys at home as well. Be awesome, stay awesome. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for tuning in and stopping on by. Until next time.